Are you ready for a career upgrade? One where you are valued and respected for your expertise, where you get to use your strengths every day, where you're doing work that matters, where you have healthy boundaries, and where you're paid really freaking well. And not only that, but you get to use your privilege to open doors and support others in their pursuit of their own upgraded careers. Well, if that sounds good, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Nicole Case, and after a decades long career in corporate HR, I'm sharing my behind the scenes insider knowledge on how you can upgrade your own career and succeed in this wild corporate world. Each episode will have practical, actionable takeaways that you'll be able to implement right away with some healthy doses of encouragement and maybe a kick in the pants or two. Plus, you'll hear from other amazing women who have upgraded their own careers on their terms. So pour yourself a favorite beverage and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the Upgraded Career Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Case, and today we are talking about what you need to do right now if you want a promotion this year. You're ready for it, you've been busting your ass, you're hitting all your goals, and you want and expect the promotion this year. This is your year. But the biggest mistake that I see is people waiting until their actual performance review to ask or start even talking about a promotion. I see it all the time. They get themselves all fired up, all pumped up. I'm going to go into that performance review and I'm going to ask for that raise. I'm going to ask for that promotion. And then they're really pissed and upset when that's just not how it works. We actually have to start having those conversations right now. Actually, the best time to be having these conversations is at the end of your last performance review. And why is this? Why do you have to start talking about a promotion 6 or even 12 months ahead of the cycle? Well, there are 6 reasons for that. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So, the first reason why it's so important to start talking about the fact that you want a promotion this year, that's what you're driving towards, is that if you wait until your performance review to start having that conversation, you're too late because that decision was made 3 months ago. Your boss and the leadership team, they have to get together and decide those things. When it comes to budget allocation and all of that, it takes time for them to work through that process. So by the time your boss is actually sitting down and having that conversation with you, it's taken weeks and sometimes months to kind of cycle through that whole discussion process. So this is something that I led and managed in most of the companies that I worked for in HR. I managed the performance review process, which in all of the companies that I worked with coupled those compensation decisions together. So they would do some sort of a performance evaluation, whether it was super formal or super not formal, and they would use that information coupled again with budgets from finance on who was getting the promotion, who was getting the raise, what was the bonus going to look like. And they use that performance information often to guide those conversations. So those conversations were sometimes we called them calibration sessions, if you've ever heard that term before, where the leaders and usually an HR person would be in the room kind of facilitating just these discussions about their team's performance. How's the team doing this year? Who's really hitting all of their goals? Who's maybe struggling a little bit, and having these performance conversations amongst each other in an effort to make sure that they are allocating the budget dollars in a way that hopefully the best performer is the person that is getting the promotions more often. They're getting awarded those raises and things like that. Now, it's not a perfect process, right? This idea of meritocracy is actually a giant lie. It's not a perfect process at all, but typically this is how companies navigate promotion discussions, right? So what we need to make sure is that we're having these conversations with our leaders well in advance of them getting into those meetings so that your boss can be prepared to go to bat for you to say, hey, we've been working on this. my employee and I have been working on this promotion for them for the last several months. This is the plan that we had, so that again, your boss can be well positioned to really advocate for you in those discussions. So that's the first reason why we have to start having these conversations early in the year, early in the cycle. Is again, it takes several weeks a lot of times for these final decisions to kind of roll up to the various leadership levels and then get to the HR team to kind of enter them into the system, payroll system, right? The HCM or whatever they're using so that your boss can actually sit down with you and say, here's the promotion, here's how much of a raise you're getting, all of those things. Those decisions are made weeks in advance of the actual conversation you're having with your boss. So the second reason why we need to be having these conversations early and often with your boss is because your boss may not know everything that you've been doing to get yourself ready for the next step. They might not realize the extra classes that you're taking or the extra projects that you're taking on, or just not even extra stuff, just the work that you're doing and just the next level in the next level way that you are operating to demonstrate that you are ready for that next level. So if you often, if you are working from home, this happens a lot with people who work in an environment where they don't sit right next to their boss, that they are not collaborating with their boss on a regular basis. This is not only true for people who work remotely from their boss or just don't work in the same location, but also as you move up in the organization, you're getting more and more autonomy to lead your team, to lead your department, to lead your organization without that much direction for that next level leader, right? Because they expect you to be able to lead at this level without that much oversight. So again, your boss may not just be super aware of all of the things that you're doing and not just the tasks and the outputs and the deliverables, but how you're going about doing it, right? How are you operating? There's a difference between, you know, uh, uh, hitting all of these goals, but you have really terrible customer scores, or hitting all of these goals, but your team just does not like you and you have a huge attrition problem on your team because you've created this toxic work environment, right? Now, I know that has not happened with anybody who's listening to this right now, but your boss needs to know. Your boss needs to know not only your outputs and your deliverables, but how you're also thinking about the business, how you are connecting the dots from other areas of the organization back to your team. They need to know and understand that. And sometimes it's not so easy just to send them a weekly update on what's happening. We have to be having these conversations regularly with our boss. So the third reason why it's so important to be having these conversations early with your leadership is because there might be some missing criteria for that promotion that you just might not be aware of. So I had a client, oh goodness, 2 years ago now, and she was at the senior manager level wanting to get to that next director level. And things can get kind of tricky. And when we're talking about leadership levels in this way, most companies don't want to have a ton of middle management or ton of management layers, right? So a lot of times they put some criteria or some structure around how many people on a team is necessary before we start adding in additional layers. So for her, she was already a senior manager, very experienced senior manager, been doing it for a number of years at multiple companies, had led some really large teams. And now here she was at a newer organization she had been at for about a year. And she had grown that team. She had hit amazing deliverables. She had done amazing value add work for the organization. And if you looked at their leadership matrix that they actually developed, she was ticking all of the boxes. She was doing all of these strategic activities. She was doing some great coaching and mentor for her team. She actually saved the company a ton of money due to a certain project that got escalated, and she handled it really quickly with her and her team. And it was just she had just an amazing rock star year. But there was one piece that she was missing, and that was the size of her team. The company again had said, "Hey, we don't want to have a ton of extra layers in management, so we're going to put a particular boundary around there, a particular structure around that, where you have to have a certain amount of people on your team before we will um, think about elevating you to the director level and putting and giving you just people managers to manage." And I get why they do that. Again, I've also been a huge proponent of that as well. But what I'm also a huge proponent of, yes, let's put some structure in place. Let's put some best practices in place, again, to make sure that we aren't going wild and crazy with these leadership levels. Um, and, but I am also a big fan of, let's take every situation and take a look at each team or every situation that's going on, because there might be some nuance there that certainly calls for an exception to this rule. And in this particular case, the scope of her team and the things that they were working on, it made a ton of sense for her to be elevated to that next director level, for her to have some people leaders reporting into her, just because her team was not structured exactly like a lot of other teams or other peer groups. That didn't mean that she was not operating at that director level, and just absolutely, it was absolutely warranted for her to have that next level title and that next level responsibility. And so her and I worked together to come up with a proposal and recommendations to go back to her leadership team, so that she was able to advocate for herself, to show that, I could just go and try to empire build and hire a bunch of extra people that I actually don't really need on my team, in order to, inflate inflate the team just so that I can get this promotion. And then what happens when we hire too many people for the work that is actually necessary? Then we are in the situation that we're in right now, where a lot of other companies overhired throughout the pandemic, and now we're seeing them laying off thousands of people. So she was actually an even more strategic leader and an even better leader, to see that and say, I'm not going to overinflate my team where that's not necessary, because also that's extra budget and company waste from that standpoint, again, just so that she can justify her becoming that director. So I'm happy to report that that she was able to get that promotion that year, during that cycle year, and it was, again, well deserved. But it was really great that we connected 4 months in advance to really strategize on, kind of what's going on here, what might be missing, how can we again advocate for her to get to that next level. So there might be something that's missing from the criteria for that promotion that you just might not be aware of. So again, it's always good to understand, what are those things that people are looking for? What is it that you need to be focused on? Again, is there a certain number of certain years of experience that are required, a certain size of team, certain scope, that kind of thing. Maybe there's a budget amount or a dollar amount that your team needs to be bringing in, or that you need to be, some revenue numbers or something like that to justify or to make you eligible for that next level. It's just really helpful to understand what it is that is happening here, so that you can be well prepared for that. So the fourth reason why we need to be talking to our leadership team and to our boss about your desire to get to that next level is, kind of, again, like I said earlier, about how it takes time for these decisions to be made, and just for the budget and everything to kind of come together. Your boss may need to have time to advocate for you, or to just get the budget together, right? It's really difficult for someone to walk into their boss's office and say, I need this right now. And I'm going to walk otherwise, right? I'm going to leave if I don't get this today. Now, don't get me wrong. There are certainly times where that level is called for, but hopefully, if we follow these steps, we don't have to get to that place, because we have had this conversation through over the course of 6 to 12 months. And again, your boss has had time to socialize this idea of the next level for you with their peer leaders, with their management team, with that next level. Because what you want to have happen is whenever your boss goes into these meetings with again with their peers or with their leadership team, they're able to speak to this, and the other people sitting around the table are like, "Oh yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, Nicole's not already at that level. Oh, absolutely. Let's make we've been talking about this for months now. Yeah, we've been hearing updates from you in our staff meetings about this person on your team, working towards that next level. We don't want this to be a surprise to anyone else, especially if we're talking about, again, really senior levels. We're talking about director, senior director, VP level. Oftentimes those more senior levels just require a lot more buy-in and a lot more time to socialize if that next level isn't even needed for the organization. And again, how do we want to strategically set up the organization to for that leadership structure? So again, your boss kind of needs some time to go to bat for you, or they need time to really get that budget together. So give them that time by having this conversation a little bit earlier, again, so that you can just make this easier on them too. It's like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. This is I can have time to do everything that I need to do as your leader, and as someone who wants to support you in this growth for you. You have to give me some time to get there. So the fifth reason why we have to start talking about our desire for promotion early is that there could be some activities that you can be doing between now and then to get you better positioned. So once again, you can be totally crushing it, knocking it out of the park today, but maybe there's some next level activities that the leadership team needs to see in you, or some just some behaviors, or some things that they need to be seeing in order for them to say, yes, it's absolutely time for this person to be promoted. They've been working on these things. We've seen the growth. It's a lot easier, again, whenever we're in these conversations about these really scarce resources, right? There is not unlimited budget, and only so many people can get promoted in a year, particularly if we're talking about really more senior levels. And it's a lot easier whenever the leadership team, again, has had insight into this work that you've been doing, that you've been driving towards this path, and they can truly see that, yeah, they've been growing, they've been stretching themselves, but they've really been showing up as that next level leader. We can truly see kind of, I don't want to say before and after, but they can totally see that growth. And so again, if you're more aware about what those activities are that you need to be doing in order to get you better positioned, you knowing that now is going to make this so much easier versus, you walking into your performance review tomorrow and saying, "Hey, I'm disappointed that I didn't get the promotion. What's going on here?" And then you come to find out that there was something that you were missing and you just didn't realize it. Boy, that would have been nice to know like 6 months ago, right? You could have been doing that by now. So, the final reason why it's so important to be having these conversations with our boss and our leader so early in this process, again, 6 to 12 months is a real ideal timeline here for most roles. The last reason here is just that your boss isn't a mind reader. If you don't talk to them about this, they don't necessarily know that this is something that you are interested in, or something that you feel that you're ready for, or feel that this is something that it's your time, right? So I had a client that I worked with last year, and we're actually still working together. She specifically came to me because she was passed up for a promotion. Now, this is actually quite common. People quite commonly come to me because they've been passed over for a promotion and they're pissed, and they're like, I don't want this to ever happen again. What is it that I need to do? And, I want some additional support from you, Nicole, to help position me well for this next level. And one of the first things that I ask people is, what the first things I asked that particular client especially was, well, what conversations have you had so far with your boss? Like what have they said so far about, again, where the gaps are and what needs to be filled, and kind of criteria that needs to be reached and all that. And she said, oh, well, I haven't had a conversation with my boss. I haven't talked to them about this before. And I said, well, you know, is that fair then for your boss to just assume that you want the next level if you've never had a conversation about it? Right? You know, now again, I will say as a people leader, we need to be having these conversations proactively with our employees about their career aspirations, about what it is that they're looking for next. But if your boss isn't having these conversations proactively, then you need to take the reins and you need to be having scheduling these conversations or having these conversations because you might just unfortunately have either a ding dong manager, like I say, a manager that maybe isn't super experienced in this area, or maybe they're again just feeling like, hey, listen, if you own your career, if this is something important to you, you need to bring it to me. Again, I'm definitely of the mind that no matter what level you're at in your organization, I don't care if you report directly to the CEO, you're the CEO. The CEO should be having these conversations with their team as well. um, but again, if they aren't proactively having these conversations, this is something that you need to be taking control of and having these conversations with your boss because again, they're not mind readers. And sometimes, like I said, the this idea of meritocracy is for sure a lie. I know we like to think that the most qualified person or the person that's most ready to take on the next level is always going to get the raise, always going to get the job, always going to get the promotion. But what is real and what happens out in real life is the people who make themselves visible and talk regularly about what it is that they're looking for in their career and how that can match up with the business goals. Those are the people that get the promotion. I don't like talking about it as like the squeaky wheel. But it's kind of in that same vein where, the people who talk about this, who have these regular conversations, they're going to be top of mind when again the leadership team is getting together trying to decide how to allocate their promotion dollars for that year. Okay. So if we now know that we need to back up our timeline and make sure we're having conversations with our boss and our next level leaders 6 to 12 months ahead of the promotion cycle, then how do you actually have these conversations with your boss? Again, especially if your boss maybe isn't super comfortable having these, maybe isn't super skilled at having these conversations. But again, frankly, this is something that you need to take control over and really take the reins around because no one cares about your career more than you do. So how do you have this conversation with your boss? First, set up a one-on-one with them if you aren't already having regular one-on-ones. Set up a one-on-one and let them know, hey, I want to talk about my career goals in this next meeting. I always recommend having people give their leader kind of a heads up to say, "Hey, I want to talk about career stuff. I want to talk about a promotion for next year, what however you want to position it." Because this gives them a little bit of time to process as well. So you're not catching them off guard in that particular meeting. I see this all the time where you're in your regular one-on-one with your boss and then you're like, okay, any questions for me? And then you're like, yeah, I would like a promotion. How do I do that? And then they're like, a little caught off guard. They're not quite sure how to answer. And then you end up having to reschedule another meeting anyway for them to be able to gather their thoughts and maybe get some information for you. So giving them a heads up that, hey, this is what I want to talk about in this particular meeting next week gives them again a little bit of time to process. Maybe there's some information they need to gather. Again, just so you don't catch them off guard so they can be really prepared to have a great conversation with you. The second piece to this is when you're in this conversation to just give them a high level overview of what you've been doing and why you think you're ready for that next promotion path, why it's important for you, or again, what those career aspirations are. Because you know what, it might not be a direct line promotion in the specific organization that you're in. Maybe you're looking to like pivot slightly to an adjacent team, or maybe it's a really big move, right? Maybe it's a really, really big step on that promotion path. And you want to just, again, talk about the things that you've been working on. Again, I don't think you have to go into nitty gritty detail here, but I think it's really helpful to have a high level overview about what you've been working on, what you've been focused on, and why you think you are on that path to promotion in the next cycle. So then once you kind of kick off this conversation, give them that high level overview. The next thing you should say is, and feel free to get out your notebooks and write this down. If you're in the car or walking or something like that, just come on back to it, or come back to the show notes a little bit later. But this is a really great question to ask, and feel free to take it word for word or zhuzh it up with your own voice. But after you give them the high level overview and why you think you're on that next on that path to promotion, ask, what else do I need to do? What else do I need to be focused on? Or what else do I need to be thinking about in order to get the promotion in the next cycle? And then you leave it there and see what they say. Let them respond to that, because it's not you coming in and saying, here's my high level overview of all of the things that I've been working on and why I think I deserve a promotion. So let's get this done right now. Again, it's not coming in and demanding. It's not coming in and really like giving ultimatums or threatening them with quitting or anything like that. It's just, what else do I need to be doing? Here are the things that I've been working on already. So you're demonstrating that you've already been proactive in this. You've already been doing some things on your own. But what else do I need to be thinking about? What should I be focused on? Or what are the gaps that I need to make sure that I fill in order to get the promotion in the next cycle or in the next opportunity? And again, hear what they have to say about that. Hear with a really open mind about whatever feedback comes back from that. And then the next part of all of this is just to work on a plan together, right? We want to get your boss, your leadership team bought in, and have them help you, support you in this journey, because again, they are going to be the ones that ultimately, your direct boss is ultimately the person that is going to have to go to bat for you, that is going to have to advocate on your behalf to those next level leaders. And you want their help, you want their support, you want their buy-in on this, so that again, you don't feel like you're working on this in isolation, you're working on it alone. And after you create this plan together, continue to give them updates on your progress. So whether that's every couple of weeks or once a month, or just during your regularly scheduled weekly or biweekly one-on-ones with your boss, make sure you spend a few minutes. I don't think it needs to be the whole meeting or anything like that, but just spend a few minutes just to say, "Hey, I just wanted to update you on my progress on this particular goal that we set, this development goal that we set for my promotion for this year." Making sure that, again, you're continuing to update them so they know what you're working on, they see your progress, and also just ensure that you're continuing to check in there to make sure, again, there's nothing else that has come up that you need to be focused on or you need to be thinking about. Maybe something in the business has changed, a priority in the business has changed, which might impact the timing of your promotion. So again, work on this plan together. Draw up what this promotion plan looks like, what these goals look like, and then continue to give them updates on your progress, and continue to check in with them to make sure you're still on the right path. So that client that I shared earlier who had come to me last year, this was exactly the plan that we put together. Even though it was really uncomfortable, she went to her boss, she had that conversation with her boss, really sat down and ironed out some really specific goals and some really specific things that she needed to work on. And then when she got to the end of the year in December, her boss said, "Yeah, you're getting the promotion this year. This is what that looks like." And he said to her, myself and the rest of the leadership team has really seen your growth this year. We have really seen you stepping up in meetings and really thinking at that next strategic level. You're really offering those opinions and those perspectives that we really need to see from you. So we're on top of all of the other goals that you hit this year. So she was really excited, and I was so happy for her. Um, But one of the things that she struggled with throughout this whole process was that she thought she only had to talk to her boss about this one time, that I only need to talk to him about it once and he'll get it. And that unfortunately is just not the case. Again, we need to continually to have this conversation. I don't think it's every day. I don't even, it might not even be every week to be like, hey, don't forget, boss, I'm looking for that promotion this year. Again, in the context of a regularly scheduled career conversation, or maybe your company does regular performance check-ins, that would be the right time to have that conversation. Again, if your boss is not regularly scheduling these things, like I said in that first step, go ahead and set something up with them. Maybe it's just a quick 30-minute check-in. Maybe it's even a 15-minute check-in. Who says it has to be 30 minutes necessarily, just to have a check-in? Just to say, hey, I just want to check in really quick about my promotion progress, about my progress on these career goals. Just want to check in really quick with you just to make sure I'm still on track. I think at once a month is a really great cadence to continue to have that conversation. Again, to keep that top of mind for your boss, because they're busy and they probably have other people on their team that they're also probably working with on their career as well. And then they've got their own career that they're working on too, right? So we have to, again, no one cares about your career more than you do, and you're not pushy. I know like I said, my previous client, or my client who was working on this last year, she was really concerned that she was going to be viewed as pushy, as braggy, as annoying, and that was going to backfire on her. And the reality is that could definitely happen if, again, you're walking into this conversation and you're making demands and you're giving ultimatums and things like that. Like, that's going to put your boss and the leaders kind of on the defensive, right? And that's not going to feel good to anyone. And I don't think anyone feels like they want to be backed into a corner or pushed back into a corner with something like this. So yeah, it can certainly backfire. That's how you're approaching the conversation. But again, I don't think anybody here listening is going to do that. You're going to walk in like your true and genuine and authentic self, and you're going to have these conversations, well in advance, to get yourself well positioned and help your boss make this just easy for them to go to bat for you and to advocate for you on your behalf, to get you that official title increase, all of those great things that go along with your promotion. So, as a recap, why do we need to be talking about this so early, Nicole? Good grief. Why do we have to be talking 6 to 12 months early about this? Well, again, if you wait to your performance review, the decision has already been made. Your boss might not know that this is something that you're interested in and may not realize what you've been working on to kind of get yourself ready to that next level. There might be something missing, or a really specific piece of criteria that's necessary for you to be eligible for that promotion. So you need to make sure that you know what that is. And your boss needs time to socialize this information, to really advocate for you, and to get the budget together in order to make this promotion happen. And also, there just could be some activities that you might be missing, or that you could be doing between now and then, just to get you better positioned. And finally, again, your boss is not a mind reader. So let's make it easy for them. Let's have this conversation well in advance so that you can be growing really quickly in the next 6 to 12 months to get you to that promotion that we all know that you deserve. So that's everything that you need to do right now, like this week, if you want to get that promotion this year. So if you don't want to be passed up or disappointed yet another year, no one, again, cares about your career more than you do. So you being proactive and having these conversations earlier on in the year so that everyone's on the same page, you will have a partner in your boss helping you to get to that next level. So thank you so much for tuning in today. If you love this podcast and you really enjoy getting this information, head on over to my website at NicoleCaseSpeaks.com/newsletter and sign up for my non-spammy, non-gross weekly newsletter, where you will get all of this type of information that is super critical for you to really upgrade your career on your terms right into your inbox every week. You'll be the first to know when a new podcast episode drops, so you don't have to remember that. And I often will drop in some fancy free things for my newsletter subscribers as well. So head on over there if you want to stay in touch a little bit more. And until next time, remember, your career deserves an upgrade.